Hello, this is the codes and conventions of horror films. So to start off, let's look at some narrative conventions for the characters. Now there's multiple different characters that you'll find in horror films, and these are some examples. So first we have the dumb blonde. This is the attractive and overconfident girl that always usually dies with the jock, who is then also the strong, the tough dude who dates the blonde, and then always dies violently trying to fight back. Now the token, this character is the one that always starts off the kill spree. They usually die first, enter in the wrong house, that sort of stuff. Now, stereotype is this person is usually either black or Asian. The skeptic, this is the smart person, questions everything. So if this was Scooby-Doo, it'd be like Velma. The couple, this can be the jock and blonde earlier, but basically they are there to add the whole teen sex trope to the cast, and they end up dying during these scenes. Now the expositioner, this is usually a wiser person. Usually they avoid the main group, can't be trusted at first, but then eventually they can reveal that they're good. The loner, this is usually the protagonist, basically different to everybody else, and because of that they always end up surviving. And then of course you got the killer, probably the most important. They attack the protagonist, usually either a supernatural entity or a psychopathic murderer, depending on what type of horror it is. So a quick example of the dumb blonde. This is Tatum from the movie Scream.
Flip.
Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
Okay, let's see.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. Cut, Casper. That's a wrap. Randy, what the hell are you doing? Ah!
Okay, pretty standard dumb blonde move right there. And then a quick example of a jock character. This is Lewis from the Final Destination 3. Remember, dies trying to be alpha.
What I tell you, Kevin, huh? Fuck death. I just will. That's all I know how to do, Kevin. Baby, I just will.
Okay. Alright, so now we've got the killer. There's just some quick examples here. Now this is probably the most important character because they are, always on the movie posters. They're usually quite overpowered. This obviously evokes fear in the audience. Most of them have scary masks as well, which kind of plays with our natural fear of the unknown. Alright, now onto locations. Now most people don't find busy and more social areas that scary. You can always cry for help and remain safe. So for this reason, a lot of horror films are actually based in really isolated areas, to play on the fear of loneliness, desperation. Basically, you've got no help at all. So some examples, here we've got The Woods, classic, a haunted house, an island, and hotel. So now let's move on to some storylines. Now there's all sorts of different storylines, cliches that all come up in horror. Everyone knows falling over nothing, checking out weird noises, that sort of stuff. Some more examples, got the bad guy won't die. This constantly leaves the audience on edge as they will keep coming. Group of teenagers alone. So the teenagers we come across more as defenseless and easy prey. Having a group of young characters makes it more believable when we do stupid things, sort of a little thing. Now obviously teenagers often indulge in activities, partying, drinking, sex. Basically makes us all vulnerable and exposed, which kind of makes the movie more relatable to younger audiences. Now a classic movie trope is death by sex. This is definitely one of the most common. Usually involves the couple that we discussed earlier. A quote here from a Halloween film. Thanks to my bookish nerdiness, I'll still be alive by the end of the night. Now, how society at the time may have influenced this. Now, during the 80s, there was the whole AIDS epidemic. So the whole death by sex thing, it could relate to the fear of unprotected sex. Just a theory. Moving on to camera work. High and low angles. This makes the subject look bigger or smaller, depending on whether they're the victim or not. Obviously, horror movies often show someone looking up at like a haunted house or a castle from a low angle. or it makes the person seem more inferior, and it makes the structure look more intimidating, which again evokes fear and tension within the audience. Now another bit of camera work is the POV, found footage. This puts you within the scene with the characters. Blair Witch Project made this technique famous. Back in 1999, Blair Witch Project was actually marketed as real found footage of missing people, which made the audience believe what they were seeing was actually true. Now back then as well, reality TV was picking up, so this concept was actually quite fresh and very new. On to lighting. So obviously in horror, lighting is used to create fear and tension. There are many different techniques used to achieve this. For example, silhouette and backlighting. These iconic techniques involve light shining against the wall and the subject portraying this shadow onto it, or the light placed behind the subject facing towards the camera to blacken out. This adds fear as you can only work out the outline of the character. You can't really see the face that much, so you don't know their true intentions, but you know it's usually bad. Another example is spotlighting. This is the only light source that is, it's a small circle, basically to look like a flashlight. It leaves the surroundings in complete darkness, which puts the audience in the scene, gives them the character's point of view. And then lighting from below, this is also known as uplighting. It distorts the face, adds a sense of mystery to the subject. Moving on to editing and sound. Editing is probably the most important factor for creating tension and fear. Common horror movie editing involves lots of short clips shown in a fast-paced edit. These can be jump cuts or quick cuts. Very, very common in like chase scenes. Obviously, the use of sound also adds fear and suspense. Without sound, jump scares aren't really that scary, and the music is a great way to build tension and eventually reach a climax. So this is a quick scene from a Friday the 13th film. Basically goes over the sound and obviously there you saw some handheld footage as well, along with obviously jump cuts and the music. Right, so throughout the year there is actually a number of great film festivals that cover horror, showing new films. Now I was just on the monthly film festival site here, and I found a list of some of the best horror film festivals throughout the UK. One that I did find was called Fright Fest. It's well known, and it has a 2-day event near Halloween, which gives it that sort of horror feeling. But yeah, that is Codes and Conventions of Horror. Thank you for listening.